Yeah, honestly, I like it. Kind of reminds me of high school football. So it just gets some juice going and preparing us for the game.
Did you get tired of it at all, or were you good with it the whole time?
The only time it bugged me was when they were doing it in the center's ear and he couldn't hear me do the cadence. So I got a little mad at that, but other than that, it was fun.
After more time to reflect on the first game, what did you think about that, and how do you build from that into this one?
Yeah, saw some good stuff. Some players making some plays. Raleek, JT, and the guys, being really explosive. So that was good to see. And then just going back and cleaning up a bunch of stuff. We got to play harder, more physical. That starts with me in practice. So kind of went about it like that today, and I was happy about it.
Sam, statistically, you had a pretty darn good game, but Coach said you're your hardest critic. Did you feel like you could have played better last Saturday?
Yeah, I didn't feel like I played the best. A lot of things I could have done better. Threw a really stupid pick. That's not part of my game. Game was kind of over at that point, and I just threw it up, and it was just dumb. I don't do stuff like that, but good stuff to learn from. I won't do that again.
You talked about the cowbell and getting ready for the noise on the road. Having said that, how valuable is it to get off to a good start? I know you want to do that every game, but especially on the road in hostile territory like this.
Yeah, always good to do that on the road. Kind of quiet the crowd a little bit, get the team on their heels. That I feel like once they're running and going fast, then they're kind of playing well and playing to their speed and things like that. So kind of just taking the game in our hands and dominating it like that early on.
Coach talked about this kind of being a good situation where you got some mistakes you got to clean up, right? Some things you got to work on, but after a win, you get to do that instead of saying, "Man, this is why we lost."
Yeah, always nice to do that after a win. Just makes the vibes higher in the building. If you're hurt, it doesn't hurt as bad after a win, stuff like that. So always feel good.
How do you think the rest of the guys have responded?
I feel like it was good. We understand what we did that was good and what we did that was bad, and kind of took that upon ourselves as a team. And overall in the team meetings and as a unit, offensively and defensively, we kind of understand how we got to approach the week to come out different this next week in terms of physicality and just the emotional stability of playing the game.
Is that just a sign of how high the bar has been raised, where people aren't really satisfied with a 19-point win in front of a sellout crowd?
Yeah, for sure. Bar's definitely been raised. It's a lot different than last year. And it was tough last year going from, our last game was at the Peach Bowl to playing in that game, so it's hard to get the juices going to that level. But this week's gonna be a good refresher.
How similar do you anticipate Mississippi State being to the defense that you saw last year?
Yeah, really similar. A lot of the same stuff. Kind of saw what they did against Southern Miss. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm not going to go into detail too much, but yeah.
You talked about the center's cadence and how that was kind of difficult. Overall, was it tough to communicate with all that cowboy noise today?
Not too bad. They were just doing it like right next to his ear, so I was like, that's not realistic,
Yesterday, was talking about how, although you guys want to get other wide receivers involved, Jordan Tyson is in one-on-one coverage. You guys have to take advantage of it. You kind of feel the same way where if he's in that type of situation, you just have to feed him?
Yeah, if cover zero's in one cover, then you got to get him the ball any way you can. So that's probably my main game plan right now.
If you think that's a mistake other teams are not going to make?
Say that again?
Is that going to be a mistake that other teams are not going to make?
To leave him one-on-one? I guess we're going to see, come game time.
Has there been a little bit of extra excitement just kind of going on the road to face an SEC opponent, the chance for the program's first ever road SEC win, stuff like that?
Yeah, I didn't know. I guess last year was the first SEC win, huh? I don't know if it's necessarily viewed like that. I kind of like to view every single week the same. I actually really like playing at away games. It gives me a little bit more juice. So I'm excited. I don't think the team viewing it like that. We kind of go about it the same every single week.
No, it's a good day. We've had officials out here, so all camp, and we've really emphasized, hands inside. We've emphasized that for a while. So just to re-emphasize it, sometimes physical blocks get called. That's the game of football. It's unfortunate when it gets called in the manner it did last week.
Coach, the cowbells are obnoxious, clearly.
Yeah, when you think of Mississippi State and Starkville, it's an unbelievable college town. We got unbelievable atmosphere, right? Fans are awesome. They're all in, which is what you want, right? I've lived in a college town in Auburn. It's one of my favorite places I live. So Starkville, I've recruited Starkville. I actually lost to a recruit who was from Starkville to Coach Levy. He whipped my butt. In the recruiting show, he was committed to me forever to Florida State, and Coach Levy got him to flip to him. So it's a great environment there, and we're trying to simulate that environment as much as we can. obviously you can't simulate their fan base and their excitement and that environment, but you can be as close as you can. So we're just trying to simulate the passion of that city and that place, and it's awesome.
Having said that, how important is it to get off to a good start? I know you want to start fast all the time, but especially on the road in a hostile environment like you just mentioned.
Yeah, obviously starting fast is critical in all games. I don't think it's any different whether it's on the road or at home. Obviously, if you get a lead, you may be able to, remove the noise at times. But like I said, they're such a good fan base. I don't know if that's going to happen in general. I think they're going to show up. I think they're going to be loud. And it's going to come down to our players, going out there and executing and playing our brand of football.
Did you coach at all, like when you were at Auburn? Did you guys play at Mississippi State?
I've never played there. I've been there multiple times recruiting. Like I said, there's really good food there, to be honest. And I've stayed there about 3 to 4 times in the city recruiting. And like I said, the kid flipped from me, Luke Altmaier, a great player, to Coach Levy. So Coach Levy's whooping my butt right now from that perspective.
How much gamesmanship is there with, like you mentioned it yesterday, but teams trying to figure out what the other team's going to do in situations or personnel or whatever?
Oh, extreme games and stuff, especially early in the season. Like early in the season, you don't know, all right, they're playing, is that what they're doing? Or did they just do that because that was week 1 and they were hiding something, right? There's that constant gamesmanship, especially earlier in the season. Later in the season, the gamesmanship disappears because you may have wrinkles. Every week you should have wrinkles, but you can't create a whole new identity of your team in a week. But you could have worked on something all year and saved it for week 2 or week 3. That's very normal. So the gamesmanship piece is absolutely real this early in the season. That's the exciting part about these games.
Jordan Crook obviously had a strong finish to last season. What did you see from him last Saturday and really just entire preseason?
Flying around. He was flying around. He's a vocal leader for us. So he's had an unbelievable camp, unbelievable first game. So I'm glad he's playing with us.
You talked about, bless you, right?
Yeah.
You talked about, the flags. Obviously, you don't want that many flags at all. But is it a good situation to be in as a coach where you get the win, but you still have something to kind of harp on the guys about?
100%. Like I told the guys, everything that happened in the game is correctable, it's fixable. And that's what you want. You want to win football games when you have a lot of things to correct. And I think they've had a really good mindset to go back to work this week and try to play our best football. That's the mission every single week. The mission is to play our best football. Hopefully the result is winning. But the mission and the goal is to play our best football. And that's how I judge football games is one, winning is how you feel. But really it's, do we play our best football, right? That's how I rule it from my perspective.
How did you think communication was with all the cowbell stuff today, and how difficult do you anticipate it being this weekend to start?
Yeah, I think it was decent today. I anticipate it being very, very difficult. Like I said, this is a great city. It's a great fan base. Starkville loves their football team. And so we're trying to simulate it as much as possible. So it's going to be a great challenge for us because, they got a great fan base.
What are you thinking about your homecoming?
I'm absolutely ready to go. Ready to see my family, just, ready to play at that stadium. I remember just going to those games as a little kid, so it's going to be fun just being in that environment, seeing my family, and getting the ball out.
When you
How many
first
family?
decided to
I'm
come
sorry.
here, did you know that ASU was going to play a game?
No, I didn't. I actually didn't, and it's crazy that I get to go back home and just see my family and play back at home and just see some hometown friends. It's gonna be amazing for sure.
How many fans do your family members do you have are going to be in attendance?
Yeah, I probably got the whole city of Tupelo probably coming, but I definitely got a lot of family and friends coming out.
When you have a game like this, when you get to go back home, like you said, what kind of memories or emotions that comes up when you think about how far you've come since you left there?
Man, absolutely. It's just a tremendous feeling, just knowing how far I've came, just those memories just of being a little kid, just wanting to play football, looking up to those other guys that went to Mississippi State. Chad Bumpers is one of the guys that I was just mesmerized as a kid, just watching him play, and it's just an awesome feeling just going back home and being able to play there.
How about knowing that you're going to do that to some other young kid? They're going to look at you and be like, man, that's the guy that's from here. He's doing it. Maybe I can do it.
Yeah, it just shows me that just my role just in life is just grown tremendously. Just I feel like I owe it to them. Just be that role model, and be that figure. Just to give them some hope.
sure the cowbells brought back some memories too, right?
Yeah, the cowbells actually just annoyed me today, but it's definitely a memory. I remember, I think the last Egg Bowl I went to, and those fans, they keep it rocking the entire time. So it's definitely just a memory.
So how do you manage the emotions this weekend going back there?
It's just going back to the drawing board. I got some things I need to clean up, and just standing with my process and doing what the things that I've done that got to get me here. So it's just just keeping all those things in mind. Just understanding my family is there. So that's what I think about every time I play and every time I practice. So it's gonna be nothing new.
Can you put too much pressure on yourself to do well?
I always put pressure on myself to do well, but that's just me. I feel like I'm my own biggest critic. I just I hold myself to a higher standard. So I think that pressure is always on myself.
What was your take on the win on Saturday?
I think we got the job done, but I definitely think we were a little sloppy. I think we did some good things, but I think we didn't get to truly show what our identity was and what we were truly capable of. And I think this week is going to be an opportunity to show that.
What was your childhood experience like growing up there in Mississippi?
What you say?
What was your childhood experience like growing up there in Mississippi?
So it was a lot like Camp T kind of just being outdoors, hanging out with my friends and family, just coming outside and coming back home until the street lights come on, and just I just remember those things and just being outdoors and just growing up and just learning things the hard way, getting cuts and bruises here and there, coming home, just those type of memories.
Did you get recruited by Mississippi State, or what was it like?
I was kind of recruited by Mississippi State when I went to high school, but I wasn't officially offered. So yeah, that's a little chip on my shoulder for sure.
What do you think about how you and Ralik played off each other on Saturday?
What you say?
What do you think about how you and Ralik kind of played off each other and complimented each other on Saturday?
Oh yeah, I think we did some good things. I think we were explosive. We made some plays, and that was just a little taste of what we can really do. I think we got one of the best backfields, and if not the best backfield in the country. And I think we're going to be able to show that. We got a lot of guys that can do a lot of things, and I'm very confident in us and in myself.
Was it hard to communicate today with all the cowbell noise?
I wouldn't say it was hard to communicate, just really annoying. We implemented those cowbells last night in walkthrough, so I think that's something they just want to. Yeah, I think they're trying to make it just like white noise. So we just trying to just get through it and just communicate well.
So what do you think will be the key to clean up the penalty issue moving forward?
Yeah, just being disciplined. That's an easy fix. Just being disciplined, communicating, knowing our assignments, and just getting back to us.
So why did you leave your hometown in Mississippi to go to Texas, and how tough was it to kind of leave that childhood behind?
It wasn't really tough just leaving that childhood behind. Just so I actually moved with my adopted parents, Brandon and Raven Shorter, and it was just going there and just getting into a better opportunity. Just I actually enjoyed it. School, still being around my friends in Dallas, so it wasn't really tough. I did miss a lot of family. I did miss a lot of friends back at home, but it was definitely ultimately like a good decision for myself and my family.
I'm sorry. How much did it help you grow up, though, moving away from home in high school?
Yeah, it actually just helped me grow up really, really fast. Just being away from my mom, I miss my mom a lot, so it definitely helped me just come a man a lot faster, make a lot of decisions that I probably wouldn't have to make if I wasn't in that situation. So I definitely think it allowed me to grow as a man.
Has your phone been blowing up this week?
Oh, absolutely. I get calls every day from family members I haven't heard from in years, but they're definitely really, really excited.
How is it now to have two of those female figures in your life?
It's absolutely a blessing. I've learned so much from those two women, and I thank God that He put me in the position that I was in, and the position I am now. I'm blessed.
What lessons did you learn from each of them?
I'd say mainly just be about my business, just take care of business, and I say from my mom back in Mississippi, just be humble, always be humble, and just keep working. The work always works. So I think those are the biggest lessons I learned from those two.
What would you tell your teammates about what it'll be like playing in an SEC environment?
I'd definitely say it's gonna be loud. I just remember the last Egg Bowl game I was at. Those fans, they was ringing those cowbells the entire time. So I think just the key to just the victory is going to be communicating and just being on the same page.
How seriously do they take their football down there, and how kind of ingrained is football in the everyday life of that average individual in Mississippi?
They take it truly serious. I just remember being in high school. Yeah, we was getting after it. The weather is muggy, so it's a lot of those days where we're grinding it out, banging it out, and definitely some lessons learned just practicing.
What's it been like to use football as a vehicle to kind of showcase what you can do to make it out and inspire your family and do what's special?
Yeah, it's definitely been awesome. Just showing my family how far I've come, and just being that role model. I feel like a lot of my friends back at home kind of look up to me in a certain figure, so I feel like I owe it to them. Just go about my business the right way, to carry myself in the right way, and thrive at every level.
How cool is it to be from the same place as Elvis Presley?
Man, when I talk to a lot of people and tell them, I'm from there, they always just ask me just about being there and just the vibe of the city. But it's definitely I remember just every time I go back home, just driving by his birthplace and just seeing the downtown with the guitars and stuff like that. So it's definitely a staple of that city, and I kind of carry it with a little pride.
Can you name an Elvis song?
Blue Suede Shoes.
There you go.
That's one of my favorite ones. I just remember, I think I had a play a while ago, and that song just been stuck in my head just for a while.
When was the last time you were home?
Last Christmas.
So you didn't even go home for the summer?
No, I didn't go home for the summer. No.
Can you pronounce the name of the town again?
Tupelo.
Tupelo.
Yeah.
If you could give your mom back in Mississippi a message this week, what would it be?
Well, I just seen her. I'm coming home. That's probably a message that she'll probably just smile at. She'll probably end up crying. She's a huge crybaby. So when I dropped her off at the airport, I was surprised she didn't cry that time. But I think she might have cried on the plane. But it's definitely, I'm coming home. She's probably just gonna be overwhelmed with joy just to see me come back home.
Does this game mean a little extra for you?
It means a little bit extra, just because I know after the game I'll probably see more family. But I think ultimately it's just getting back to the process and just treating it just like any other game. Ultimately, I got to do what I got to do, and I got to do my part. So I think that's just the biggest thing for me.
Cam Scudderby would have been proud the way you shoot that defender there on your first run.
Oh yeah, Scat, yeah, that guy's crazy. He's I definitely know he was probably somewhere just about to lose his mind somewhere.
Thanks, guys.